I'm launching my organic skincare line next month, Lisa announced proudly at our family dinner, her voice dripping with excitement as she waved her phone around, showing everyone the promotional materials. I nearly choked on my roasted chicken as I recognized the formulas she was describing, my exact formulas that I had shared with her in confidence just 3 months ago. My name is Cora Mitchell, and I'm 31 years old. I've spent the last 8 years building my reputation as a biochemist specializing in organic cosmetic formulations in Portland, Oregon. What started as a passion project in my garage had evolved into a legitimate consulting business where I developed custom skincare formulas for small beauty brands. My sister Lisa, 28 years old, had always shown interest in my work, asking detailed questions about ingredients and processes whenever we talked. Congratulations, Lisa. Isn't that wonderful? I said, forcing a smile while my heart pounded with a mixture of betrayal and disbelief. My parents beamed with pride as Lisa continued describing her business plan, using terms and concepts I had taught her during countless late-night conversations about organic chemistry and skincare science. I've been working on these formulas for months, Lisa continued, her eyes sparkling with what I now recognized as deception. The vitamin C serum with rose hip oil and the hyaluronic acid moisturizer with peptides are going to be my flagship products. Those were my exact formulas. I had spent 2 years perfecting the vitamin C serum, testing different concentrations and stabilization methods to prevent oxidation. The hyaluronic acid moisturizer had taken even longer as I worked to create the perfect balance of molecular weights for optimal skin penetration. I had shared these formulas with Lisa when she expressed genuine curiosity about my work, never imagining she would steal them for her own commercial venture. "Where did you find your manufacturer?" my dad asked, clearly impressed by his younger daughter's entrepreneurial spirit. "I found this amazing lab in Seattle that specializes in small batch production," Lisa replied. "They were so impressed with my formulations that they offered me a reduced rate for my first production run." My stomach dropped. 3 months ago, I had recommended that exact manufacturer to her when she mentioned wanting to create a few custom products for herself. I had even provided her with my contact there, thinking she might want to make some personal skincare items as gifts. "That's incredible, honey," my mom said, reaching over to squeeze Lisa's hand. "When is the official launch?" "I'm hosting a launch party in 2 weeks at the Brightline Urban Event Space downtown. I've invited local beauty bloggers, potential retailers, and some investors. It's going to be amazing." As she spoke, something cold settled in my chest. This wasn't just casual plagiarism or coincidence. This was calculated theft of intellectual property that I had worked years to develop. But instead of exploding with anger, I felt an eerie calm wash over me. After dinner, I excused myself early, claiming fatigue from a long week at the lab. Lisa hugged me goodbye, her embrace feeling like a mockery now that I knew the truth about her upcoming venture. As I drove home through the quiet Portland streets, my mind raced with memories of all the times I had trusted her with my professional secrets. Growing up, Lisa and I had always been close despite our 3-year age gap. She was the artistic one, studying graphic design in college, while I pursued chemistry and later specialized in cosmetic science. Our parents had always encouraged both of our career paths, but I noticed they seemed more excited about Lisa's creative pursuits than my scientific achievements. When I started my consulting business, they were supportive but distant, not quite understanding what I did for a living. Lisa, however, had always shown genuine interest. She would visit my home lab, asking thoughtful questions about ingredients and their molecular structures. She helped me organize my research notes and even designed some preliminary logos for my business. I had been grateful for her enthusiasm and support, especially since my work could be isolating at times. 6 months ago, Lisa had gone through a difficult breakup and was struggling financially. She had moved back in with our parents and was working part-time jobs while trying to rebuild her life. During this period, she spent more time with me, often coming over in the evenings to help with my work and learn about the industry. "I find your formulations so fascinating," she had said one night as I explained the process of creating a stable vitamin C serum. "The way you balance pH levels and use different antioxidants to prevent degradation is like art meets science." I had been flattered by her attention and had freely shared my knowledge, thinking it was just intellectual curiosity. She took detailed notes, asking specific questions about concentrations, ingredient sourcing, and manufacturing processes. I even let her help with small batches, teaching her proper laboratory procedures and safety protocols. Have you ever thought about creating your own product line? She had asked during one of these sessions. Eventually, I had replied, right now, I'm focused on perfecting my formulations and building relationships with manufacturers. The market is so saturated that I want to make sure anything I release is truly innovative. Lisa had nodded thoughtfully, and I had interpreted her expression as admiration rather than calculation. Looking back now, I realized she had been planning this theft for months, systematically extracting information about my processes, suppliers, and business contacts. The most painful part wasn't just the betrayal. It was the realization that our parents would probably never understand the severity of what Lisa had done. To them, we were both their daughters pursuing careers in beauty and wellness. They wouldn't comprehend the years of research and development that went into creating effective skincare formulations or the intellectual property laws that protected such work. As I pulled into my driveway, I felt a dangerous calm settling over me. Lisa had made a critical mistake in her theft. She had stolen my formulas, but she had no idea about the legal protections I had put in place. The next morning, I sat in my home office staring at my computer screen, a cup of coffee growing cold as I processed the full scope of Lisa's betrayal. I pulled up the detailed documentation I had been meticulously keeping for the past 3 years, every formula, every test batch, every modification carefully recorded with dates and photographic evidence. As a biochemist, I understood the importance of intellectual property protection in the cosmetics industry. What Lisa didn't know was that I had been preparing for exactly this type of situation, though I never imagined the threat would come from my own sister. I opened my filing cabinet and retrieved a thick folder labeled patent applications and copyrights. Inside were the preliminary patent applications I had filed for my most innovative formulations, including the vitamin C serum and hyaluronic acid moisturizer Lisa was now claiming as her own. I had also registered copyrights for my written formulation processes and documentation methods. My phone buzzed with a text from Lisa. Hey sis, just wanted to thank you again for all your help and encouragement with my business. You've been such an inspiration. The irony was almost laughable. She was thanking me for inspiring the very theft of my intellectual property. I set the phone aside and opened my laptop, navigating to the website for my intellectual property attorney, Jonathan Hayes. I had hired him 2 years ago when my consulting business began growing, and I needed to protect my proprietary formulations. I drafted a detailed email outlining the situation, attaching photographs of my original research notes, copies of my filed patent applications, and documentation of my communications with the manufacturer Lisa was now using. I also included screenshots of Lisa's promotional materials, which featured product descriptions that matched my formulations exactly. Jonathan, I wrote, I need to discuss immediate legal action regarding theft of intellectual property by a family member. The infringer is planning a commercial launch in 2 weeks using my proprietary formulations. Please advise on the most effective course of action to protect my rights and prevent this launch from proceeding. After sending the email, I called the manufacturer in Seattle. Rebecca Valdez, my contact there, answered on the second ring. Cora, how are you? I heard from your sister that she's launching her own line. How exciting that it runs in the family. My heart sank further. Rebecca, I need to speak with you about that. Lisa doesn't have authorization to use any of my formulations for commercial purposes. She obtained those formulas through personal conversations and has no legal right to manufacture them. There was a long pause. Oh no, Cora. She told us these were her original formulations and that you had simply helped her with some technical advice. We never would have proceeded if we knew they were your proprietary formulas. I understand this puts you in a difficult position, I said, but I need you to halt all production on her order immediately. I'll be sending you documentation proving ownership of these formulations within the hour. Rebecca assured me that production would stop immediately, and I felt the first spark of satisfaction. Lisa's launch party might happen, but it would be without any actual products to sell. The following day, Jonathan called with news that sent a surge of adrenaline through my system. "Cora, I've reviewed all your documentation, and you have an airtight case," he said, his voice carrying the confidence of a lawyer who specialized in intellectual property theft. "Your sister has not only stolen your formulations, but has also violated several federal copyright and patent laws by attempting to commercialize them without authorization. What are my options?" I asked, feeling a mixture of vindication and sadness that it had come to this point with my own sister. "We can file for immediate cease and desist orders, pursue damages for theft of intellectual property, and if she proceeds with the launch, knowing about your claims, we can add charges of willful infringement. The damages could be substantial, potentially in the hundreds of thousands of dollars range." I felt my breath catch. I had known the legal implications were serious, but hearing the potential financial consequences made the reality of Lisa's actions hit even harder. She was risking not just our relationship, but potentially her entire financial future. "There's something else," Jonathan continued. "I did some research on her planned launch event. She's been promoting this pretty heavily on social media and has apparently secured some significant investors for the evening. If we time this correctly, we can maximize the impact of our legal action." That afternoon, I received an unexpected call from Kelly Thompson, a beauty blogger Lisa had mentioned inviting to the launch party. "Hi, Cora. I hope you don't mind me calling. I got your number from the Kelwin Publishing Directory. I'm working on a piece about emerging skincare brands, and I wanted to fact-check some information about your sister's upcoming launch." My pulse quickened. "What kind of information?" "Well, she's claiming to have developed these revolutionary formulations through years of research, but some of the technical details she provided seem remarkably similar to work I've seen from other chemists in the industry. I always try to verify the authenticity of product claims before featuring them." This was the opening I had been hoping for. "Kelly, I think we should meet in person. There are some things about Lisa's claims that you should know before you feature her products." We agreed to meet the next day at a coffee shop in downtown Portland. When Kelly arrived, a sharp-eyed woman in her 30s with an obvious passion for the beauty industry, I had prepared a comprehensive presentation showing the timeline of my formula development alongside Lisa's recent claims. "This is exactly what I suspected," Kelly said after reviewing my documentation. "The technical sophistication of these formulations seemed beyond what someone could develop in a few months without formal training in biochemistry. What concerns me most," I explained, "is that she's not just stealing my intellectual property. She's potentially putting consumers at risk. These formulations require precise manufacturing processes and quality control measures. If she doesn't understand the underlying science, she could create products that are ineffective or even harmful." Kelly nodded gravely. "I've seen this before in the industry. Entrepreneurs without scientific backgrounds try to capitalize on the clean beauty trend by copying established formulations, but they don't understand the complexities involved in safe cosmetic manufacturing." "I'm planning to take legal action," I said. "But I wanted journalists and potential investors to understand the full scope of what's happening here. This isn't just a family dispute. It's a case study in intellectual property theft and consumer protection." Kelly leaned forward. "Would you be willing to go on record about this? I think the beauty industry needs to hear this story, especially with the launch party happening so soon." I considered this carefully. Going public would make the situation irreversible and would likely destroy my relationship with Lisa permanently. But it would also protect other formulators from similar theft and warn consumers about the risks of products developed without proper scientific expertise. "Yes," I said finally. "I think transparency is important here. The public deserves to know the truth about the products they're considering purchasing." Kelly smiled grimly. "I'll have the article ready to publish the morning of her launch party. The timing will be perfect to warn people before they invest or make purchasing decisions." 3 days before Lisa's launch party, Jonathan called with an update that made my hands shake with nervous energy. "Cora, we've got the cease and desist orders finalized, and I've also prepared copyright infringement notices that we can serve at the event itself, but there's something else you should know. Lisa's been telling people that you've been helping her with the technical aspects of her business." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" According to my sources, she's been claiming that you're her silent technical partner and that the formulations were developed collaboratively. She's essentially trying to preemptively legitimize her theft by claiming you're involved. The audacity was breathtaking. Not only had she stolen my work, but she was now trying to implicate me as a willing participant in her deception. That's completely false. I have documentation proving that these formulations were developed entirely by me years before she ever expressed interest in the skincare business. I know, and we can prove that in court, Jonathan assured me. But this information changes our strategy for the launch event. Instead of simply serving papers, I think we should consider a more dramatic revelation that exposes her lies publicly. What do you have in mind? What if you attended the launch party yourself? The suggestion sent a chill down my spine. Jonathan, I don't think that's a good idea. This is already destroying my family relationships. Hear me out, he continued. If you're there when we serve the papers, you can immediately refute her claims about your collaboration. The investors and media present will see firsthand that you're not a willing participant in this venture. It will be much more difficult for her to spin the narrative if you're standing right there contradicting her story. I spent the next hour walking through my neighborhood, trying to process this suggestion. The thought of confronting Lisa publicly in front of her investors and the media felt both terrifying and necessary. She had forced this situation by stealing my work and lying about our collaboration. Perhaps it was time for me to take control of the narrative. That evening, I called my parents to let them know about the legal action I was taking. The conversation was one of the most difficult of my life. "Cora, honey, I'm sure this is just a misunderstanding," my mom said, her voice strained. "Lisa would never intentionally steal from you. Maybe you two can work this out together." "Mom, she's planning to sell products using formulations I spent years developing. This isn't a family squabble. It's intellectual property theft. I have legal documentation proving ownership of these formulations." My dad got on the phone. "Can't you just let her have this one thing? She's been struggling so much since her breakup, and this business could really turn her life around." The request felt like a physical blow. They were asking me to sacrifice years of my professional work so that Lisa could benefit from my efforts without consequence. "Dad, would you ask an artist to let someone else sell their paintings? Would you ask a musician to let someone else profit from their songs? This is my life's work." "But she's your sister," he said quietly. "Which makes this betrayal even worse," I replied. "I trusted her with my professional secrets, and she's exploiting that trust for personal gain." After I hung up, I sat in my living room feeling more alone than I had in years. My family was choosing Lisa's comfort over my professional rights, just as I had feared they would. But their reaction only strengthened my resolve to see this through to the end. I called Jonathan back. "I'll attend the launch party. Let's make sure everyone understands exactly what's happening here." The night before Lisa's launch party, I received a text that made my blood run cold. "Cora, I'm so excited about tomorrow. Thank you for being such an amazing sister and mentor. I couldn't have done this without your guidance and support. See you tomorrow night. Love you." She was still expecting me to attend as a supportive family member, completely unaware that I knew about her theft and had prepared legal countermeasures. The casual tone of her message, combined with her continued lies about my support, made me realize just how calculated her deception had been. I spent the evening preparing for what I knew would be a confrontation that would change our family forever. Jonathan had arranged for a process server to be present at the event, along with a videographer to document the proceedings. Kelly Thompson had confirmed that her exposé article would go live on her popular beauty blog at exactly 7 p.m., 1 hour into the launch party. "The timing is crucial," Jonathan explained during our final strategy call. "The article will start circulating on social media just as the event is hitting its peak. By the time we serve the legal papers, the investors and media will already be aware of the intellectual property issues." I selected my outfit carefully, a professional black dress that conveyed authority without being overly formal. I wanted to look like the serious scientist I was, not someone playing dress-up for a social event. As I got ready, I thought about all the late nights I had spent in my lab, all the failed experiments and gradual breakthroughs that had led to these stolen formulations. Lisa was about to profit from work that had consumed years of my life. At 6 p.m., I arrived at the Brightline Urban Event Space in downtown Portland. The venue was beautifully decorated with minimalist displays showcasing Lisa's product line. Elegant glass bottles with clean, modern labels were arranged on white pedestals throughout the space. Everything looked professional and sophisticated, exactly what you'd expect from a legitimate skincare launch. I recognized several local beauty influencers and potential investors mingling with cocktails. Lisa had clearly put significant effort into creating an impressive event. The irony wasn't lost on me that she was using her genuine talent for marketing and event planning to promote products she had stolen. Lisa spotted me within minutes of my arrival and rushed over with a radiant smile. "Cora, I'm so glad you're here. This means everything to me." She hugged me tightly, and I felt the weight of what was about to happen settling over me like a heavy blanket. "The event looks beautiful," I said. "Honestly, you've done an amazing job with the presentation. Come meet some people," she said, linking her arm through mine. "I want everyone to know that my brilliant sister helped inspire this whole journey." As she led me toward a group of investors, I saw Kelly Thompson in the corner of the room checking her phone. Our eyes met briefly, and she gave me an almost imperceptible nod. The article would be going live in less than an hour. "Everyone, I want you to meet my sister, Cora," Lisa announced to the group. "She's the biochemist I've been telling you about, the one who helped guide me through the technical aspects of formulation development." The investors looked at me with interest, clearly expecting me to elaborate on our collaboration. Instead, I simply smiled and said, "Lisa's always been creative. I'm curious to see how her business develops." One of the investors, a well-dressed woman in her 50s, turned to me. "Lisa mentioned that you have extensive experience in cosmetic chemistry. Have you considered partnering with her officially?" Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with a text from Jonathan. "Article is live. Server is in position. Are you ready?" I looked at Lisa, who was beaming with pride and anticipation, completely unaware that her world was about to collapse around her. At exactly 7:30 p.m., as Lisa was giving her presentation to the gathered crowd about her innovative formulations, I watched phones throughout the room begin buzzing with notifications. Kelly Thompson's article was spreading across social media like wildfire, and I could see confused expressions beginning to appear on guests' faces as they read the explosive headline, "Emerging Skincare Brand Built on Stolen Formulations: An Investigation into Intellectual Property Theft." Lisa was in the middle of explaining her years of research when I noticed several investors huddled together, whispering urgently while looking at their phones. The mood in the room began to shift from celebration to uncertainty. "The vitamin C serum you see here represents months of careful testing and refinement," Lisa continued, completely oblivious to the digital storms swirling around her. "I've worked tirelessly to create the perfect balance of stability and efficacy." That was when I stepped forward. "Actually, Lisa, I think there's been some confusion about the development timeline of these products." The room fell silent. Lisa turned to me with a puzzled smile, still not understanding what was happening. "What do you mean, Cora?" Jonathan appeared at my side, accompanied by the process server. "Lisa Mitchell," the server announced in a clear voice that carried across the now silent room. "You are hereby served with a cease and desist order for copyright infringement and intellectual property theft." The papers landed in Lisa's hands like a physical blow. Her face went from confusion to shock to horror in the span of seconds as she realized what was happening. "Cora, what is this? What's going on?" "These formulations belong to me," I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "I developed them over several years, and they're protected by patents and copyrights that I filed long before you announced your business launch." The investors and media representatives were now openly staring, some taking photos and videos of the confrontation. I could see Kelly Thompson in the background, documenting everything for her follow-up coverage. "But you helped me," Lisa protested, her voice rising with desperation. "You shared these formulations with me." "I shared them with you as my sister in confidence, never imagining you would steal them for commercial use," I replied. "These products cannot be sold because you don't own the intellectual property rights to the formulations." The complete devastation on Lisa's face as the reality of her situation hit was almost heartbreaking. but I forced myself to remember the months of calculated deception that had led to this moment. The investors began gathering their belongings and making hurried exits, clearly wanting no part of a business built on stolen intellectual property. Ladies and gentlemen, I addressed the remaining crowd. I want to make it clear that these formulations represent years of my research and development work in biochemistry. Ms. Mitchell obtained them through personal conversations and has no legal right to commercialize them. Anyone considering investment or purchase should be aware that this business is built on intellectual property theft. Lisa stood frozen, still clutching the legal papers as her carefully planned launch party disintegrated around her. The influencers who had been documenting the event were now filming the scandal instead, and I knew this footage would be circulating online within hours. "Cora, please," Lisa whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Can't we work this out? I'll give you credit. I'll pay you royalties. Whatever you want." "The time for negotiation was before you stole my work and lied about our collaboration," I replied. "You had every opportunity to ask for permission or propose a legitimate partnership. Instead, you chose deception and theft." The venue manager approached us nervously. "Excuse me, but we're going to need to ask everyone to leave. We can't continue this event given the legal circumstances." As the last guests filed out, Lisa sank into a chair, surrounded by the ruins of her stolen dreams. The beautiful product displays that had looked so promising an hour ago now seemed like monuments to fraud and betrayal. "I hope you're satisfied," she said bitterly. "I'm satisfied that justice was served," I replied, turning to leave. "The consequences of intellectual property theft are severe, and you're about to learn exactly how severe they can be." Lisa's business venture collapsed completely within 48 hours of the failed launch party. The viral coverage of the intellectual property theft scandal made her untouchable to investors and destroyed any credibility she might have had in the beauty industry. She faced mounting legal fees as my lawsuit proceeded, and the financial stress forced her to move back in with our parents permanently. The manufacturer in Seattle terminated their contract and demanded compensation for the halted production, adding to her financial burden. Our parents, who had initially blamed me for destroying Lisa's opportunity, gradually came to understand the severity of her actions as the legal proceedings revealed the full extent of her calculated deception. As I sat in my lab 6 months later, working on new formulations with proper legal protections in place, I reflected on the painful but necessary journey I had taken to protect my life's work. The experience had taught me that sometimes the people closest to us are capable of the deepest betrayals. But it had also shown me the importance of standing up for what I had earned through years of dedication and hard work. My consulting business had actually grown stronger after the scandal as other chemists reached out to learn about intellectual property protection, and I had become an advocate for creators' rights in the beauty industry. While I mourned the loss of my relationship with Lisa, I had no regrets about the path I had chosen. Sometimes justice requires difficult decisions, and protecting what you've built is worth more than preserving relationships built on lies.